Hi everyone and welcome to the Transitions Out training. The training today will be presented by a member of the SALT team, a member of the OT team, a member of the psychology team and a member of our Transitions Out team. This training is split into two sessions. You're looking at the first session and we'll be going over a review of the current supports, the independence curriculum and speaking about pathways for education and funding. The second session will go over therapy and what you can expect after Swalcliffe, benefits that might help support independence and future pathways, EHCPs and annual reviews, and some contacts that might be beneficial to you. I'm just going to provide a quick overview of what the sixth form currently has to offer in regards to support. So all students have access to the whole school therapy provision. This provision includes environmental considerations that ensure our students have access to a language, communication and sensory friendly environment. They have access to the tutor program, which is a 30-minute program delivered each day by the tutors and devised by the therapy team. These programs cover topics such as self-management, social emotional, language and literacy and communication. All students have access to specialist teachers who have specialist training in ASC, as well as regular training delivered by the therapy team on how to support students with language, communication, social, emotional, and sensory needs. All students have access to consultation with the therapy team and, if needed, wider multidisciplinary team meetings. We offer a regular wellbeing bulletin and the independence curriculum. So my colleague Justine is going to talk you a little bit through the independence curriculum coming up, so you'll learn some more information then. In addition to the whole school provision and the independence curriculum, all students do have access to targeted therapeutic support as and when needed. So this might mean that in addition to things like the tutor program and environmental considerations, they might receive blocks of targeted support that could be either one-to-one or small groups. This targeted support could also include programs created by the therapy team and delivered by key workers or trusted staff. In addition to all of these supports, all students in the sixth form also have access to careers support, and my colleague Sophie will talk you through that later as well.
Hi, I'm just going to talk over the independence curriculum. This is now new and improved. It's had a revamp. We still currently do 1.5 hours sessions weekly, and the programme is devised and led by the therapy team. And then it's much more focused on where your child's needs are or where they're heading after Swalcliffe. So these can be focused on teaching your child independent skills or to become more independent, and it's much more tailored to their level of need. There's also a sixth form independence team that do offer independent sessions outside of the 1.5 hours weekly.
So I'm going to talk to you about pathways and funding. I'm going to focus on colleges, apprenticeships, traineeships, universities, workplace and supported internships. Some key things to consider before starting university and college would be what to study, where to study, what preparation is required before commencing the course, what level of social support is available so that you do not feel isolated, what type of academic support you require, how many hours of academic support you require, learning support department and contact details, help with transport, what transport's available, how will you get to college and university, is there any funding available for this? So firstly I'm going to talk to you about colleges.
Firstly, we're going to look at colleges. To start off with, we'll explore further education colleges. Further education colleges offer vocational courses such as BTECs and T-levels. They also run apprenticeships and supported internships. Information on your local further education college can be found on your county's local offer website, and further information can come from the Further Education Colleges website. Remember to look out for open days, and some of these colleges also offer taster sessions. Open days and evenings usually start to take place in the autumn term, We have found with previous students that these have been beneficial to the young person, as they provide insight into the environment and the courses on offer. Students that have left Swalcliffe Park School and gone on to study at college have generally gone on to study catering, mechanics, computing and media, and they have done really well here. When a young person applies to college, the college generally likes to receive applications in the January of the year they wish to start in the September, but this does vary across further education colleges and is worth you checking. Once your young person has applied to college, they may need to attend an interview. Interviews can be daunting, and therefore it is worth noting here that you can speak to the college about access arrangements for your young person, such as an accompanying adult to reduce anxiety, prior insight into the interview questions, and also information about where the interview is going to take place and who will be holding the interview. Further education colleges generally have a student support department. These generally provide the support in the classroom for your young person and the additional support outside the classroom to help the young person complete work. Some further education colleges do have on-site therapy provision and some do not. So it's worth exploring this when you explore further education colleges with your young person. It is also worth noting that therapy provision can be brought in by colleges, as under the Education, Health and Care Plan, all needs do not need to be met by one provider, and this is something you may need to discuss with your local authority if you find a suitable further education college for your young person, but they cannot meet need due to therapy provision. Once you've applied to college, your local authority will need to consult with that college to see if they can meet your young person's need.
So now I'm going to focus on independent specialist colleges. Independent specialist colleges provide further education for young people with learning difficulties and/or a disability. A small number of young people with an education, health and care plan will have education and training needs that can only be met by a specialist college. Specialist colleges can provide a 24-hour curriculum for a young person, focusing both on academic studies and independence training. Some of these colleges do offer both day and residential places. Please be aware that some specialist colleges do not educate students on site but will access further education colleges to provide vocational courses and then provide the training and therapy support back at the specialist college. Also, it's worth noting that some of these colleges do not solely cater for young people with ASC, but for young people with a variety of needs. The application process varies across all these specialist colleges. However, they do generally recommend that you get the applications in early, some even up to a year before. It is worth inquiring and visiting any specialist college that you're interested in. However, please note that the local authority will only consider a specialist college if they regard through the Education, Health and Care Plan identified needs of your young person, that their needs cannot be met by your local further education college. So now I'm going to touch on funding. Funding for college education. If the learning goals have not been met and the young person requires more time to achieve them, or the student is still progressing towards a target identified in their Education, Health and Care Plan, funding for courses under a level 4, so under higher education, can continue up until the age of 25 through the Education, Health and Care Plan. Other funding options, if there's no Education, Health and Care Plan in place, can come through funding for further education courses from the local authority. Courses are free up until the age of 19. After the age of 19, you can get help with the cost of courses if you're claiming certain benefits such as job seekers allowance or employment support allowance. If none of this is available to the young person, a young person would be expected to pay for the course costs. Fees would be quoted from that local further education college. So now I'm going to focus on a university pathway. Some of our young people at SPS are now progressing to university. Over the last few years, we've had more and more students progress to university, as well as the other pathway options. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, some of our students now are progressing to university. These are usually 1 or 2 a year, and are students that have studied level 3 courses or A-level courses at the Warrener. We help the young person apply for university. We start this process in the June the year before they want to go, and then help the young person apply to 5 universities and then go through this process. University is where a young person will study a course such as geography, biology at a higher level and in depth. At university, the young person will learn through attending lectures, seminars, group projects and independent study. Funding is available for this through a student loan. Education, health and care plans cease for higher education. The young person would go to university and they would attend for anything between 3 to 4 years. Entry requirements for the university courses vary across the universities, and we support the young person to explore this. The young person would usually then study for 3 to 4 years and achieve a degree. This can then lead on to postgraduate courses or research degrees, professional qualifications or graduate employment. As I mentioned on the previous slide, young people who are going to university are not eligible for an education, health and care plan, so their plan will cease. Universities and higher education colleges should have someone in charge of disability and SEND difficulties that you or the young person can talk to about the support they can offer when the young person goes to university. Funding for university comes through student loans that an individual pays back when they're earning over a certain threshold. Disabled Student Allowance, DSA, is also there to help support a young person with additional needs. You apply for this at the same time as applying to university and then go through a process and an assessment where the assessor will assess the additional support and funding available for that young person for their university journey. There's also additional bursaries and grants that you can apply for and can be searched through the university's website. Each individual university offer their own bursaries and grants that you may qualify for. So now we're going to focus on workplace and an employment pathway for your young person. Some young people at Swalcliffe, when they come to the end of year 14, do not want to continue with education. They want to go into paid employment. Employment for our young people can be full-time, part-time or volunteering. When a young person goes out into the workplace, they can ask for reasonable adjustments. The employer is expected to make reasonable adjustments for their employees to enable them to complete their work. This falls under the Equality Act 2010. In addition to asking for reasonable adjustments within the workplace, your young person may be able to access to work funding. This is a government scheme that can be used to pay for extra support for your young person to stay in or to help them start work. The support that your young person is offered will be based on the young person's needs and can include grants to cover the cost of practical support in the workplace. It can help the young person get to and from work, and it can help the employer pay for reasonable adjustments that are costly to them. So it is something worth discussing with an employer and your young person if you feel that there's going to be a need for funding to make a workplace accessible to your young person. I'm now briefly going to discuss apprenticeships and traineeships with you. I'm now going to explore the apprenticeship pathway with you. There are varying levels of apprenticeship that a young person can enter into. A young person can enter into an apprenticeship at the age of 16. Apprenticeships combine practical on-the-job skills training and off-the-job learning. A young person will get training that is relevant to their job and would be paid a salary. A young person would start an apprenticeship at the level that suited them, and if they had additional needs or a disability, they could receive extra support. The entry requirements for an apprenticeship varies depending upon the job role that you're applying for and the level of apprenticeship. For example, a 16-year-old could apply for a level 2 apprenticeship, and they may require the young person to have GCSEs. You would spend 80% of your time in the workplace and 20% of your time with the training provider. The duration of an apprenticeship again varies across the apprenticeships being offered. Some can run for a year, some would run for 3 years, where the apprenticeship level would increase each year. This pathway would lead the young person to paid employment. To find out more, there's a government website, and this is available in the links that we provide at the end of the presentation. I'm now going to discuss the trainee pathway with you. A traineeship is a course that includes a work placement that will get the young person ready for an apprenticeship or a job. The young person will get work experience and some help to apply for their next step. While undertaking the traineeship, a young person may also be offered the opportunity to improve their maths and English skills, especially if this is felt that they would need it to apply for an apprenticeship or the job that they're interested in. Traineeships can run from anything from 6 weeks to 6 months. Entry requirements. The entry requirements are that the young person is aged between 16 and 24, or potentially up to 25 with an education, health and care plan, and that the young person has no higher qualification than a level 3. They are suitable for individuals that are working at around a level 1 who might benefit from additional support to prepare for work. The work experience aspect of a traineeship is not paid. However, the trainee provider may help with the cost of travel and meals. A traineeship can lead on to an apprenticeship, further education or employment. Again, there's more information on the traineeship with the links provided in the handouts that we provide at the end of these presentations. So now I'm just going to touch on apprenticeship and traineeship funding. An apprenticeship with an education, health and care plan receives funding for the core costs of their training in the same way that other apprenticeships do. This funding would come from the apprenticeship budget, but employers choose the apprentices and the apprenticeship training they need in their business and negotiate how much funding will be paid. If an apprentice is 16 to 18 or 19 to 24 and has an education, health and care plan, then their employer and training provider each receive additional funding to help support that young person while in placement. The Code of Practice makes it clear that an education, health and care plan does not cease when a young person undertakes an apprenticeship as long as it is under a level 4, so higher education, so it has to be up to a level 3. Funding for the education aspect would then fall under the education, health and care plan, and support needs could be met through this. In terms of a traineeship, funding comes under the education, health and care plan and apprenticeship funding streams. Alongside this, you can also apply for access to work funding for any additional reasonable adjustment needs. I'm now just going to look at a supported internship pathway with you. So I'm now just going to cover the supported internship pathway with you. Supportive internships are suitable for young people with learning difficulties or learning disabilities who need extra support to get a job. Funding comes both through the Education, Health and Care Plan, as college attendance is 1 day a week, and access to work funding that we've talked about previously. Supportive internships are where the young person would spend most of their time on placement with an employer, learning skills for work. They would also get help from a tutor and a job coach in college, which I've mentioned would be 1 day a week. This would help the young person with their long-term goal of gaining employment. They would develop new skills and gain real job experience. Supported internships are a minimum of 6 months and can run up to a year. Entry requirements: the young person has to be aged between 16 and 24 and have an education, health and care plan. Qualifications vary across provider, but generally the young person could enter if they have an education, health and care plan, and they may be supported to work towards GCSE English and Maths. A supportive internship can lead to a traineeship, an apprenticeship or paid employment, as we've discussed earlier. To find out more information about supported internships in your area, it's worth contacting your local further education college and exploring your county's local offer. You can also speak to a social worker or a transition worker, or speak to your Job Centre Plus advisor. Supported internships and education, health and care plan funding. As I've mentioned earlier, funding comes for a supportive internship through an education, health and care plan, as long as your young person continues to have a need or a target to be worked upon. And they can also get additional funding for reasonable adjustments through the Access to Work funding streams. That brings us to the end of this session. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email one of the team and we'll try to answer your question. Thank you.